Good morning, everybody. Remember the 5th of November. And of course, the controllers did not forget, did they? Now, we're going to be all over the place today. We've got the whole thing that happened in Houston in the world of Astro. We're going to break down some of the symbolism behind what happened at that concert. But I don't like to get too deep into some of these celebrities on the individual level. Why? Because it's even above their pay grade. Okay? These people aren't bright enough to figure out how the matrix works and what sacrifice they're going to do next. This is coming from the top down. Now, of course, all of us in the non-conformist community have been warning about these high occult days for years, haven't we? We warned that partaking in these rituals and dressing up and attending these gatherings is basically a recipe for sacrifice. We warn people that the veil is lowered during these peak times in the calendar, and that everything that these artists represent is against God and what He wants for you in your life. It's not to make you have less fun. It's to protect you. The Bible says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." Now, let's get into just some of the key points of what happened at this concert. Not sure how sensitive YouTube's going to be, so we're going to kind of speak in code today about this individual, Mr. Scott. And they called what happened a crush crowd. We're saying that in reverse, obviously, but think of the two C's, CC, crush crowd, CC33, of course. But of course, we're going to go deeper today. Can't just say something is 33 and without showing some backup information. And that's what we're going to show today. Now, what I believe is this whole thing was likely an I can't breathe ritual to keep it in everybody's mind how scary it is not to be able to breathe, so they can finish out strong with this last Pokemon sticker push. Now, here's the album, and it's called Astro's World. I'm saying that a little bit differently. And according to the own description in this Wikipedia article about the cover, this is a balloon. A helium balloon. Now, we, of course, know that balloons are about helium and Helios and sacrifice. It's everything literally we've been talking about. Not that every time you see a helium balloon that it's bad, but basically you're going into the mouth of the beast here, the mouth of hellfire. Here it is right here, and it's full of helium, Helios, which is sacrifice. Now, I found something weird here, and I don't think anyone's probably found this yet. But if you look atop the head of Astro here, you can almost make out what appears to be a crown. I'm going to outline it for you. Now, we know the serpent has just been crowned, don't we? And here you can kind of see it pretty clearly. Now I'm going to toggle this on and off so you can see what we just did. If this wants to work for us here. There we go. Off and on. And there you can see the crown. Now, there's something else in this crown here. There's also what appears to me to be the eyes of the serpent as well, tucked away in there. Toggle that back on and off a couple times. Now, what does this golden crown serpent really mean? Well, we all know what it means. And chances are, I would give it 50-50 that he knew or didn't know that they incorporated this on his album cover. But there's a little bit more to this, because here's the lyrics to the very first song on the album. And on here, they talk about packing. Remember, people were crushed. And if it ain't a mosh pit, it ain't no injuries. It ain't a mosh pit if there ain't no injuries. So taking all that together, obviously, at the very least, he doesn't really care about the safety of his fans, making a statement like this in his lyrics. Now, of course, I understand these guys like to play tough guy, and it's all about battling in the mosh pit, right? This is what these people are into. Look, I've been there. There's a picture out there circulating somewhere on the internet of me at a Body Count concert when I was in college. My friend took the picture. I don't know what he did with it, but I'm in a mosh pit, right? And it was at the Anaconda, which is just, I look back at my life and I look at the things that God has rescued me from, right? And Halloween was a really big deal back then. I've told this story a couple times. And we would go down to Isla Vista in Santa Barbara, and it was a huge like Halloween party every year. And I think I went 2 different years in the first couple of years of college. And I look back and I go, wow, God rescued me from that. Because now, after living my life and learning about how all this stuff works, you really begin to understand that it's ritual, that these are ritual events and nothing ever good comes out of them. And you're blessed and protected by angels. If you come away from these events and things, if you come away unscathed, it's because God has protected you. Now, there's many other songs on the album, of course, and I probably could have taken a couple of hours to pour through the 16 songs on the album, and I'd probably find a lot more. But do we really need to? It all seems to fit together, doesn't it? Anyway, I've got some more headlines here we'll get into today. And this show was going to be, and still will be, partially about the scripted switch of energy to other forms of energy like electricity. They call it the Great Fuel Switch, and it will mark the end of oil and gas by 2035. Now, they've been warning us about this for at least a decade, that they're going to be switching America's economy off of oil and gas and onto much more easily controlled electricity. And why do I say that? Well, because they can turn the electricity on and off whenever they want. It's connected to their web, their grid, right? A person can't just make their own electricity unless they're plugged into the grid, and they want to be able to turn the switch on and off. Now, here's what they forget to tell you. They forget to tell you that in order to make electricity, this is from justenergy.com, how is electricity made? Let's make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see this. You need coal, natural gas, or nuclear power. You need these in many instances, not all instances, to make electricity. So, what is really happening here? If we read between the lines, what's really happening here is that they want to be in control of how electricity is made and monopolize your freedom to get a hold of coal, natural gas, oil, and things like that, right? In other words, they're consolidating the coal, natural gas to create their power, right? They're consolidating it so they can give it out to you when they want it. Now, here's what else they forget to tell us. They forgot to tell us, as they're trying to switch us all over to the electrical grid, that electricity doesn't work very well in the cold, does it? No, it does not. And much of America exists in cold environments. So what happens in the morning when it's sub-zero and you've got to turn your car on? Will it work? Well, I don't know. But from the things that I've heard and seen, the likelihood of your electricity being as dependable as turning on a car is nowhere near. Now, here's the crazy part. Because they lie straight to our faces about everything from now until they make the great switch. In other words, they're starting to increase the prices on some of these fuels. And they're saying it's for all these other reasons, right? They're saying, oh, it's because of the spamdemic. That's why energy prices are going up. Because the supply went down when everybody had to stay home. And now the supply's back up and now the demand's back up and we don't have the supply available. Okay. Here's a letter from Governor Lamont here in Connecticut telling the people of Connecticut that your propane and natural gas bills will go up 10% and your heating oil bills will go up 40%. 40% increase expected. Look at when he published this, the 5th of November. See, these people never forget the 5th of November because it's part of their occult belief system that we've identified. When we're trying to turn up the heat, they are trying to make it colder. And this is part of the dark winter that they've been talking about. People trying to conserve because you could go broke with some of these heating bills. Here in the Northeast, there are people with heating bills approaching $700, $800, $900 a month for a heating bill during the winter months. It's highway robbery. Now, what else is going on? Why are they doing this? Well, obviously, this is part of a scripted plan. They're trying to disenfranchise people from using this energy, aren't they? And they're trying to force them onto electric. Now, in the beginning, electric will probably be a little bit cheaper as they transition over. But just like everything else, once they've got their claws in us, then they can slowly uptick the cost of electricity at their will to make as much money as they want. Now, they are talking about doing away with natural gas even at some point. And we all know that natural gas burns very clean. But they are trying to lump natural gas in with all of the other fuels, such as coal and heating oil. Look at this. So it says here, customers who use natural gas may see rates go up in the range of 10 to 20%. Heating oil, 40% over last year. Wow. And they say it's because of the spamdemic. Nowhere in here do they say, well, we're going to switch you guys off of this anyway by 2035. So I believe this is all scripted. Now, a new rule just came about on YouTube saying that you can no longer deny what's going on in the climate. If you do that, your video will be marked and get a possible strike. Now, understand how insidious this all is, that they're going to force this on people. Let's go back to this article here because we are going to read this article here. The Great Fuel Switch. Understand that they don't care how much money you've invested in your property or your future in terms of natural gas. A lot of people build their homes on a platform of natural gas because natural gas was cheap. You have a truck come out once every year. They fill up the propane tank and you're independent. Your price is set and you're done, right? Well, understand that as we approach 2035, all that's going to change. And they're not going to give any other reason. They're not going to give the real reason why it's happening. They're going to make up excuses. They're going to say, oh, it's a supply issue. But as we get closer to 2035, it will continue to go up until it's just not cost effective anymore. And so you've got millions of households in America that have based their whole technology in their home on natural gas. And so now all of that infrastructure of these businesses and homes will now need to be changed. So it's another tax, another way that they're digging into your pockets as you have to switch over to electric, right? Because you can't go without fuel in your home or your business. So California's already done it. They basically made small engines illegal. They all have to be electric now. Now, I'm not sure if generators are going to be included in that, but if that happens, that is huge. To not be able to fire up a generator to keep warm in the winter, as many households do, even in California, especially in Northern California. It's your ability to be off of their grid, and this is what they don't want. Now, we'll talk about solar in a little bit here, but that's where all this is headed. We can't stop this, you guys. We don't have the power to stop this. I don't even believe we'll be able to convince enough people that this is coming and that we should stand against it. And I'm not saying I don't want electric at all. I'm saying it should always be a choice, and it should not be manipulated by governments. You should let the natural market do what it does, instead of pushing people toward the agenda you want and then lying to us about it. So, what else is going on? Well, Lamont says in this letter here, he also blames the supply chain problem. Okay? And of course, it's a supply chain problem. Isn't that convenient? Because it just so happens to line up and show up right at the cusp of what they're calling the Great Fuel Switch. Think of the odds of that. It sounds intentional, doesn't it? Now, before we read this, understand that this is a big reason why the controllers had to switch presidents. They had to switch presidents because obviously they couldn't have sold this whole agenda of switching off of the fossil fuels. They couldn't have sold this under the Thump presidency, right? Thump was the warp speed president that pretended to oppose the spamdemic, and then after he was not president anymore, he started promoting it, promoting the Pokemon stickers, right? But what he did was he planted the seeds to full tyranny that we're experiencing right now. In other words, the controllers needed the spamdemic as a segue into the final push for energy reformation. They needed it. They're using it. They're leveraging it right now to push right on through with their plans. It was during the spamdemic that a lot of these announcements were made, like this Great Fuel Switch 2035, as well as we had New York and California banning, these small engines. A lot of things happened during this time as a segue, while all of us have been weakened and downtrodden and beat down. A lot of us don't have the fight in us. And then you've got, of course, a Democrat president, and they always push stuff like this through during Democratic presidents. So, what's wrong with electric? Well, some people are like, what's the big deal, Casey? What's wrong with that? Well, let's talk about that, because electric requires hardware, doesn't it? Lots of hardware, lots of infrastructure that's all interconnected and somewhat vulnerable to EMPs, vulnerable to lots and lots of things. Now, it's interesting and kind of funny, because haven't we been programmed to believe that an EMP could actually stop a car from running? A gas-fueled car? I think that all that was programming. I think an EMP would be much more, devastating to the electric grid than it would a car that's not attached to the electric grid. So maybe all that was programming to make us say, you know what? It's all the same. Gas-powered cars won't work either. But would they really? Someone should try that out. Hit a vehicle with a EMP and see if it still runs. I think it would probably still run, especially older vehicles. But if we look at the hardware for the electric grid that they're talking about, there's lots of wiring. There's mining that's done, right? There are lots of breakable parts. solenoids, different things that can burn out. So when you think about it in sum total, electric is not as green as you might think it is. Now, of course, with oil, there are some risks, but oil represents freedom. Anybody with some land can drill their own oil and be independent of control. In fact, an entire freedom market could emerge out of individuals or groups of people who can drill their own oil and refine it on their own and sell it. Also understand that a lot of the oil is monopolized in the South, where there are more freedom-loving states. They want to take that power away from them, and they want to make oil illegal. They want a paradigm shift, don't they? Now let's talk about electric. What's the difference with electric? Well, it makes you dependent on the electric grid, of course. The parts are more complicated and technical, and a shortage of one part, for whatever reason, could render you stranded. Now, we talked about this back in 2017, 2018 maybe, and I told you guys that copper was going to go through the roof. Now, I don't like to invest. I don't have investments in this world because it's all coming down. Here's the 5-year trend of the copper markets. And look at this. Remember when Warp Speed was announced? And remember when 5G Whiz and beyond was announced in 2020? Well, look at what these jokers did. They first shorted the market so they could make the maximum amount of profits. This on 3/13, March 13th, 2020 was when the lockdown was announced. And I think it wasn't too much longer after that Operation 5G Whiz and Beyond was announced. And right about that time, the copper markets hit the tank. And then when everybody knew copper would be needed for these base plants or whatever they're called, copper is an essential part of the system of 5G Whiz, these towers that are going to go up. And so look at here, they shorted the market because all these people talk to each other. They're like, hey, let's short the market and then we'll buy it all back at rock bottom price and we'll all be billionaires. And that's exactly what they've done. They were obviously preparing for the great electric reset. And here is what copper has done since mid-2020 till now. It went from down here at 2, and it has doubled in price. So if you invested $1 million, you now have $2 million. Can't say that for many other commodities, can you? So let's read about this great fuel switch. And after that, we'll get into some of these other headlines today. Let me check in with you guys. Make sure you guys are all right. And then we'll get into this great fuel switch. All right. Good to see everybody. So what's going on with this? Solar and wind energy will meet 20% of global power needs sooner than previously forecast. Wow. Marking a shift from the age of oil and gas to the age of renewables. According to a new report from researchers, the growing focus on sustainability in many parts of the world is almost akin to a gravitational force. So it's gonna happen. There's really no way out of this. Pulling things in one direction and driving the great fuel switch, leaving little possibility for a reversal. Energy transition, similar to ongoing shift to renewables, are nothing new. The current hydrocarbon-based economy has itself evolved out of many previous energy transitions, from the age of biomass to the age of coal, and ultimately to that of oil and gas. Each of these was different, but all took at least 30 to 50 years to unfold. Technological advancements in the renewable energy industry, coupled with growth of energy storage, growth of electric vehicles, are driving the large-scale commodity switch away from fossil fuels. Well, it's being artificially done. Okay, understand that. One of the big reasons why we're not in the East that's in the middle anymore is because we don't need to be anymore, because they already know the future. And as this all begins to unfold, they will continue to apply pressure to anyone who resists this trend. So it's not a natural trend. That's where they want to take the world. The transition to solar and wind will replace the equivalent of 100 billion cubic feet per day of natural gas demand in the global power sector. So there you go, natural gas, which we all know burns very clean, but yet that's part of what is going to go away. So improving battery storage technology is helping make electric vehicles a viable solution for local air pollution. So understand they already have the technology for very long-lasting batteries, but they're just like an iPhone. They're going to slowly trickle out that technology to gradually switch us over. And they're making all the money they can on these batteries while they can before they roll out the more efficient batteries. The great fuel switch. Now, why are we talking about all this? Well, I believe that they're now using the spamdemic to fast track us into the electric economy. I believe that these supply chain shortages that they're talking about, I believe it's all manufactured. And all this is a big segue into electric tyranny. They're already starting to scapegoat these Pokemon sticker hesitant truckers. They're blaming them as the reason for the supply chain blockage. Here it is right here. How will the U.S. deal with the shortage of 80,000 truckers? That's what. Why do you think there's 80,000 people that don't want to get in a truck? Because there are some deadlines coming up saying you have to either get a test. If you don't have insurance, you got to pay for it. Or you have to get a Pokemon sticker. See how this works? Let's read this article here. How will the U.S. deal with the shortage of 800,000 truckers? In the car park of abandoned shopping center in Long Island, New York, instructors at Sunny Truck Driving School put students through their paces. They're training a new generation of lorry drivers, more commonly called truck drivers in the U.S., to help fill the gap in the nationwide driver shortage. Situation that is adding to the country's supply chain problems. This shortage of drivers is not new, but an increase in the freight demand as the U.S. economy reopened after the lockdowns. Waves of baby boomer retirements and spamdemic have made it worse. Now, notice something. Notice that the shortage of truckers is not because a bunch of truckers got sick from VidCo-19. I want you to understand that, because tomorrow we're going to get into the movie Contagion. And you're going to see that a lot of the things that happened weren't because of the actual from the actual VidCo-19, but rather the policies that were put in place that caused the shortage of workers. Okay, and that is probably the biggest story of 2021. That all of these problems that we're having with unemployment and all this, they told us that this was all going to be because of VidCo-19, didn't they? But it ended up being because of the policies in place, not the disease. So, now, I believe that the whole reason for the supply chain blockage is some dynamic that is occurring from the top down. I have not been able to sort it all out yet, but I believe that that is what is really going on here. Now look at this. They don't even mention the word. Let me see here. Let me see if they mention mandate. See if they mention it in this article. Nope. There's no mention of the word mandate in this entire article. So they're running, the media is not facing the problem. That a big reason At least they can admit it's a big reason, but they won't talk about that because then they have to actually address the problem, don't they? So already they're anticipating this supply chain issue is going to go well into 2023 is what they're saying now, according to this article. Let's read this. Current global supply chain issues, which some experts believe may last until 2023, continue to hammer industry sectors, from consumer discretionary to autos and housing. Of course, autos, right? Because they want everything to get switched over, don't they? They don't want a bunch of autos, gas cars being shipped over to the US. You get what you get, is the way they look at it. We're all going to switch anyway. It's all going to be illegal soon anyway. October saw the number of cargo ships waiting to unload hit an all-time high. And although transportation problems actually eased modestly last month, still remains the most pressing supply chain issue. Now, if I was president of the United States, this would be a top priority. Why? Because in order for the economy to get back going, people need to, one, be at work, and goods and services need to flow freely. In other words, this thing is almost acting like a blockade. Remember all the talk we did about Operation Anaconda? Remember President Lincoln and Operation Anaconda, a big black snake surrounding the South, wasn't it? Well, this is kind of what this kind of feels like, doesn't it? Like it's on purpose, like it has nothing to do with people. You pay someone enough money and they'll do whatever you want. Heck, someone put a door tag on my door and said, "Hey, we're hiring over here for $25 an hour. All I got to do is go to the school, pay for the school because we really, really need people to come do this." In other words, what we're seeing is not matching up with what they're telling us. And it's not even close. There aren't people knocking on people's doors asking if they're qualified to do a job because they need work and we'll pay you double what we used to pay. That's not happening. In fact, many of you are still applying for jobs and still can't find jobs, well-paying jobs anyway. So, if I was president, I would get the supply chain moving. You don't need to have the National Guard show up. You simply put some incentives in place to get things moving. And it's not about making a port work 24/7. That's part of it, but that doesn't solve the problem. So there's something else really weird going on, isn't there? And we all know it, but the mainstream media won't admit it. Now, we all knew this was going to happen and we're not going to be able to stop this. But energy that was used in the past as the gold standard of savings and efficiency, all of that will soon be going away. Natural gas, for instance. Pretty soon, natural gas could cost as much as electric. That's the future that I see. So if you're planning for the future, you want to base it on electric. That's where everything's going. Not that you have to, but if you want to survive and you don't want to get hosed by the controllers, that's what you should be doing right now. Before solar prices go through the roof, because what's going to happen as soon as the demand comes online, people start seeing the writing on the wall. They start making, for instance, they're not putting, let's say they stop putting in new gas and propane lines into homes. I could see California or New York doing something like that, making some weird law where, okay, no new homes built after 2035 are going to have gas. No more gas. Everything has to be electric. That's when the writing will be on the wall. And guess what's going to happen then? Everybody's going to want solar, aren't they? What's going to happen to the price of solar? It's going to go through the roof. And it's going to be unaffordable for normal people. It pretty much already is now. But you can still get a basic solar system on your house. Very basic. It's not going to run the entire house. You're not going to be able to turn all the lights on at once. But at least you'll be able to keep your internet on and maybe keep a refrigerator running so all your food doesn't go bad. And you might run out of power sometimes, but at least you'll have something. Now, I believe that we should start looking at things differently and realize that we can get by with a much smaller solar system that only runs essential things like internet and refrigerator. And maybe wood-burning stoves need to make a comeback. And understand that wood-burning stoves are already illegal in some states. I told you guys a story of my mother and being at her house, and she's like, "We can't light a fire today, son." And I'm like, "Mom, it's 30 degrees outside. You have a fireplace. I'm lighting a fire." And she's like, "Nope." She goes, "It's a non-burn day." I'm like, "Mom, it's the dead of winter. What do you mean it's a non-burn day?" She says, "Nope." She goes, "If the neighbors see smoke coming out of the chimney, they'll report us." And that's when I realized that we are approaching a dark winter. That's when it all set in. You've got people policing each other and people afraid to be free because they know someone's going to rat them out. So now you're seeing the whole system of control, the whole web of control, that the whole reason why they put cell phones in everyone's hand and made it so easy to rat out your neighbor or record or film something was so that we would do the policing. That was the whole purpose of this latest push of technology in the last 3 decades. We are literally have built our own prisons, and there's no way out of it. For a little convenience, right? Now, in order to understand what these controllers are up to and get an idea of where things are headed, you have to look at where all their focus is. And so far, we've seen small gas-powered engines being made illegal. So what does that tell you? We're seeing, so that would be generators, right? We're also seeing not having the ability to burn things. Okay, they're threatened by that. Because if you're on a property with 6 or 7 acres and you've got all this timber and a wood-burning stove, you can tell these people to go jump on a lake because you're always going to be warm. They don't like that. Right? So now we're starting to understand what they feel threatened about, what the controllers are threatened by. So what does that tell you to do? Well, it tells you to be in states that would never ban a wood-burning stove, like a southern state. They would never do that. Well, I would say, I'm not going to say never. I mean, maybe within 10 years, but you're going to be okay for now into the foreseeable future. Now, eventually, all these states, or most of them, are going to make even burning a fire illegal. You got volcanoes popping off all over the earth. You got forest fires, and they're going to ban your little wood-burning fireplace. But I think we still have some time with that. So, now some of these measures against propane and heating oil will be outside of even the most conservative states' control. Those are supply chains that are out of the control of the conservative states. So I see that being the first writing on the wall for some of these southern states. You'll start to see propane and methane prices going through the roof. As it stands now, or before the spamdemic, there were certain times of the year, late summer, early fall, you could fill up your propane tank, your 500-gallon propane tank, for about $500. $1 a gallon. I see that doubling in the next year. Doubling. It's going to be $2 a gallon. It's going to cost you $1,000 to fill up that tank. Now, a 500-gallon tank will last a lot of people an entire year. But then they're just going to keep cranking it up because they don't want fossil fuels. That's the end of it. Now let's get into some of these other headlines as we begin to look at what's going on in the world. Now tomorrow we're going to dig into contagion. And I'd already seen this, but there's a lot more to it, you guys. A lot more to it. Some hidden symbolism. We're going to look at it contagious. It goes way beyond social distancing mentioned in the film. It goes way beyond the masks and all that. There's a lot deeper stuff going on with that. Now, what's this article about? Well, this is New York Times, and they're going to continue to villainize any parents who are unhappy with the way that their children's school is being run. And this should send you running for the hills. If you're a parent and you got your child in public school and you've talked to all the parents at the school and they're all in agreement that we shouldn't be making our children do certain things according to these mandates, but yet you are unable to vote out these school board members, then this should send you running for the hills. Homeschooling, whatever you need to do, because this is where it all is headed. Because now they're trying to villainize. They're taking the worst actors. They're taking the worst case scenario of some of these parents and trying to paint all the parents with this broad brush, saying that they're making threats to these members. And all it takes is one flag that's false to flip the script on the parents and make them all look like horrible people. So look out, because that's probably coming. Now, for those of you that follow sports, I don't do a lot of sports on this channel, but some of you are into sports. Aaron Rodgers. Now, this guy, wasn't he like a backup quarterback for a really huge quarterback? And then on his own merit, I think he began to play very well. Aaron Rodgers, this guy's getting roasted in the media because he wanted to keep his Pokemon sticker status private. He kind of lied about it, but he kind of didn't. He said he was covered. He said he was all buttoned up, which in his mind, he probably felt that that was the truth, right? But according to their definition of being buttoned up or having been Pokemon stickered, they say he lied. So he's getting cancel cultured right now. And it's not pretty. They are going after this guy. And this is what they're going to do to anyone who stands in their way. Anyone who does not fall in line, you are on the chopping block to be cancel cultured. Rodgers, who tested positive for VidCo-19 on Wednesday, appeared on McAfee's show Friday to explain why he didn't get the Pokemon sticker. He made the conversation combative immediately, referencing the woke mob and cancel culture before sharing his thoughts. He claimed he was allergic to something in both of the Pokemon stickers. He didn't want to take some of them because it was pulled for side effects. So, then they justify that by saying JJ Goodtime's Pokemon sticker was cleared to return to the market shortly after. Okay, so that just is supposed to magically wipe away all of your concerns? Apparently, according to the New York Times. Instead, Rodgers underwent alternative medical treatments. He didn't go into specific detail regarding those treatments, though did mention taking the big no-no word. He made additional comments. So, this guy's getting cancel cultured. I don't think there's any way to claw back from this. Probably eventually get fired from the team. So this is what's going on in football. This story's weird. This is the Miami Herald, this naked guy. They found him in the walls of a theater. He was trapped for days. Okay, the big question is, what was he doing in the walls of the theater? Look at the checkerboard floor here. This is like out of a horror movie. The man in the wall. No, wait. The naked man in the wall. Like, I should write like a script for this. But Hollywood, you don't want to have anything done in Hollywood. They'll just flip it. Make it evil, right? Firefighters rescued a naked man who was trapped inside the walls of a New York theater for multiple days, the officials say. He was sent to the Landmark Theater early on the 5th of November. See, they got to always have this creepy stuff on the 5th of November, right? They heard something banging on the wall and yelling for help. In order to determine the exact location of the trapped person, firefighters drilled a hole in the wall, utilized a fiber optic camera. This sounds fake. Are you serious? You don't hear the guy screaming. Why do you have to stick a camera in a hole? This makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, they cut through the drywall and the tile to free the man who was believed to have entered the theater 2 or 3 days prior. Rescuers got to the man. They found he was naked. He was taken to a local hospital and his current condition is unknown. You can't make this stuff up. Employees, they saw the guy earlier in the week wandering the building. Then they lost track of him and assumed he had left the premises. But fire officials said the 39-year-old man hid in a crawl space of the building before eventually falling through into the bathroom wall. No charges have been filed. Wow. A Landmark Theater. I guess this guy made his mark at the Landmark Theater. Whew. Naked man. Okay, let's go on to this next story. Now, these next stories are more on a spiritual level. There has been a population explosion of foxes, hasn't there? Now, all of this, I believe, ties into the whole furries cult. This is all about the fox. What does the fox say? There's actually a song called What Does the Fox Say? Because no one really knows what a fox, the sound it makes. But understand that this fox is all about 666. Fox is 666. And this population explosion of fox isn't an accident. This is happening on a spiritual level. Same as the population explosion of shark. Remember the shark on the chalkboard of iPet Goat 2? Well, that is now manifesting in our reality. There is a shark explosion, and these sharks are protected even though they are decimating the fish populations all over the world. All you got to do is go on to any Florida fishing channel here on YouTube, and you'll watch them fish for a while, and they're hurrying as fast as they can to reel up the fish that they have on the hook because they don't want to get sharked. There's actually a term called getting sharked when you're fishing. And what happens is there's so many sharks everywhere you go down in the waters off Florida that if you don't reel that fish up as fast as you can, the shark will literally bite your fish in half. Wait a minute. I thought that Fish and Game rules were to protect the fish species from going extinct, right? This is the whole reason why they have seasons and things. So if you've got all these sharks biting people's fish in half, then the fish is dying. It's useless to the person who catches the fish, and it simply feeds the sharks. So is that really protecting the fish populations? No, it's not. So what should Fish and Game really be doing? Well, if they really cared about keeping things in balance in the oceans, they would open up a shark season, wouldn't they? But they'll never do that, right? They'll never do that. So this shark meme goes back decades, all the way back to shark fin soup. Remember that? I believe that was a whole meme to make sharks seem like they're going to go extinct because they wanted the rise of the shark, the whole shark meme, because it fits right in spiritually with everything that's going on right now. The Jaws. Ouchie, right? So what happened with this fox? Let's go back to this fox. A fox ran out on the field, and then he went into the stands during this USC Arizona State game. Now understand, this isn't the only story about foxes. This one happened in Sun Devil Stadium. Another clue, the devil, 666. There's been stories of a fox population explosion in the UK. Foxes running through the streets. All you got to do is type into Google fox sighting, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of stories about foxes just running around like cats. So this is our spiritual reality. All right, what else do we have here? Got a couple more stories for you guys. Here's the bat meme again. A man who left a bat bite untreated for weeks later died of rabies. And rabies too. They like to talk about rabies too, because this is all going to dovetail into a scenario that's going to play out sometime in the near future. It's actually kind of playing out now with the way people are behaving who got Pokemon stickers. It's a zombie apocalypse. A man in Idaho died of rabies after leaving a bat bite untreated for weeks. This basically is synonymous with Pokemon sticker. You got the two separate fangs, hollow fangs in the venom. And they want to remind you. A bat became trapped in the man's clothes when he was outside on his property. How did he get trapped in his clothes? He didn't think he was scratched or bit, but was hospitalized in October and died shortly after. An Idaho man died of rabies after a bat bit him, and he failed to get treatment. In August, the man was outdoors on his property when a bat flew towards him and became tangled in his clothing. Ooh, a vampire bat. Notice the trend here? This is all about the 5th of November. Remember I told you guys a couple days ago, Halloween's not over till the 5th of November. Well, that's what they're showing you right here. The unnamed man didn't notice any bites or scratches, so he ignored the incident till he became ill in October. Interesting. Did the bat really bite him? That's the question. Did the guy have the Pokemon sticker? That's another great question. I'll leave that up to you to decide. Here's a weird one. Another guy. This is from Insider. A man in upstate New York burst into flames after officers used a taser to subdue him. Now this is weird because what this guy did was he doused his entire body with hand sanitizer. Now, this hand sanitizer thing has become its own meme, hasn't it? And I say that because hand sanitizer, some children in schools were drinking this because the alcohol content is much higher than regular alcohol. Now, of course, this is very dangerous and bad for your body, but this is what some of these children were caught doing. You talk about health and safety risks and the things that they try to focus on that they shouldn't be focused on, and the things that they should be focused on and are not focused on. I remember in grade school, I used to eat paste for some reason. I don't know why, but when I was in the 1st and 2nd grade, I would dip my finger in the paste because it smelled good and I would eat it. And then someone told me it was made out of horse hooves. That didn't stop me from eating it either. It wasn't until I got sick one day that I stopped eating paste. So do they really think they can stick a bottle of hand sanitizer in front of a 5-year-old and expect them not to try to eat it? Because this is what children do, right? But apparently they're not too concerned about that because we still see all these schools full of hand sanitizer. Let's read about what happened to this guy. Trying to pull a Michael Jackson over here. 29-year-old man in upstate New York burst into flames after being tasered and now in grave condition. Yeah, I would imagine his condition is pretty close to the grave. Jason Jones, Jason Michael Jackson Jones walked into the police station in Don't Kill My Cat, New York last weekend and appearing intoxicated, he probably was drunk on the hand sanitizer, got into a confrontation with officers. Chief David Darling told the outlet that officers used a taser. Does anyone live in upstate New York? Can you confirm this story? David Darling really told the outlet that officers used a taser on Jones in an attempt to subdue him. I think they were afraid he was going to hurt himself. Prior to being tased, he doused himself with hand sanitizer, according to police, but it's unclear when and whether the officers were aware of it. Of course, it's unclear. Wow. Many hand sanitizers contain high volumes of alcohol, which is flammable, in order to kill germs. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers can be a fire hazard without proper handling. Oh, another great reason to put these all over schools, right? Highly flammable, intoxicating liquid in front of a 7-year-old child. Wow. He's in the burn unit in Syracuse. The goal now is to preserve whatever evidence there is to what happened, and for he is to do his best with doctors recover. Sorry, guys. This doesn't even sound real to me. Anyway, whatever. Jones Jackson over here. What else do we have here? Well, we have some judges, Washington Post, freezing Bo Jiven's requirement after the lawsuit. So, well, at least it's frozen for now. They haven't reversed it or thrown it out, but they've suspended it. So that's good news. So it says here, let's see how many judges this is, so you guys can get a snapshot into your state to see if your state is in a good position to counter this mandate. Federal Appeals Court suspended Bo Jiven's new sticker requirement for private companies. The decision was issued after by a panel of 3 judges at in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. The judges wrote that there was cause to believe there are grave statutory and constitutional issues with the mandate, and staying the order while the court assesses it in more depth. All right, so what is it? Oh, Louisiana. Okay, got Louisiana in here. Landry. What else? Okay, so it looks like Louisiana is the one they responded to. So then now there could be more to this, but that's the update on what's going on with these mandates and how the court is handling it. Now, here's one that they try to slip past all of us. This is a big story here, and this will be our last story today. Airlines prepare for international travel surge as U.S. eases COVID restrictions. So you would think, oh, I said the word. So you would think that this would be a good article, right? Everything's going back to normal. Wrong. The new guidelines require non-citizen travelers to provide proof that they have been fully Pokemon stickered against VidCo-19. All passengers, including U.S. citizens, will be required to test negative for VidCo within 3 days of flights departures. That's all of us. Let's see if this applies to domestic flights too. Domestic. If you look at their 2019 revenue, 60% is domestic, but if you okay. I don't know if this applies to domestic or not, so I'm not going to say one way or the other. But we know for sure that internationally, you have to have a negative test. I guess it's international. So that's a pretty big deal. Not going back to normal for you as an American. All right, so those are the headlines for today. Let's go into the chat here. Maybe do a little Q&A. You guys, we got to laugh about this stuff sometimes. I don't make these things up to mock these people. You know, the guy probably really did catch on fire. But, you know, if we got to have some fun, okay? Got to have some fun here, I guess. Because this stuff can get depressing, can it? Watching the world crumble down around you. All right. Stop giving money to them. Yes, I agree 100%. Saying because we're doing terrible stuff to their... Same with travel between Canada and Mexico. Take care, honeybee. Thanks for coming. Have a blessed day. Slayer lives up in upstate and never heard of this stupid story. I mean, it has to be made up. Why would they make up such a weird story, though, about a guy catching on fire? Or the guy in the wall? Nuisance hasn't been seen in 11 days. Good riddance. Yes, don't allow anyone to steal your joy. Rejoice in the Lord. Yep, the I Can't Breathe ritual all over again with the world of Astro. I agree 100%. Thank you, Stacy. Love to you all. Now, I know there's a lot more in-depth thing going on with the world of Astro, and there are a lot of channels that are going to break that down to its, smallest parts. And that's probably a good thing. We used to do that. We used to follow these celebrities and stuff, or look at a lot of music videos. I just kind of got away from that because it does two things. One, people think you're picking on the person. So immediately you're dividing everybody. If you can show the trends and connections above that person's head, that's, I believe, more effective. Because you're like, I'm showing the connections that are outside of that person. And it's not so personal anymore. Thanks, Britsbit. I appreciate you joining the channel membership. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of you guys. So Kelly went to the world of Astro as a child. Yeah, I guess the whole thing is based off of an amusement park that used to be in the Houston area that they basically tore down so they could build apartments. And this has become the identity of this Scott rapper. And he's gained a lot of traction. I think they had 50,000 people that they originally sold tickets to that concert. They increased it to 100,000 people and increased the ticket price. And the tickets sold out in like 30 minutes. So this was a really, really big deal. But look, if you have any doubts and you think I'm picking on this guy, go to the lyrics of the album Astroworld and just read through some of the lyrics and read about what it's about. Okay. There's a whole there's a component to this guy's music that furthers the agenda, this whole free love agenda, and be whatever you want, do what thou wilt. It's very satanic. Okay. Oh, someone scrambled the name and it says Traverse God. Yeah, that's probably what it's about. When you scramble his name. Good catch. So understand, and I can't say specifically, but you know what I'm talking about. The drapes. We always talk about the drapes and changing the drapes. That's what's behind all of this. Okay. Rainbows and unicorns. All right. And so, without getting too deep into that stuff, I had someone was a little bit upset with me, like, Casey, your channel's been dark. I go, you guys, this is our reality. I'm not trying to be dark. This is all around us. This is in your kids' cartoons. This is in the movies that you go watch. This is in Disneyland. I'm just showing you what everyone else is watching so that you can understand the world we live in and the truth about it. It's not me trying to be dark. I could go to Disneyland tomorrow and do 10 videos just on every ride that's in Disneyland. Pull out all the occult imagery. And that's about the happiest place on earth. That is exactly what they call it, right? To the people that aren't awake, it's the happiest place on earth. But I could actually show you. But so would that make our channel dark? No. We're trying to show you the truth so you do not succumb to the sorcery. That's what this is about. So you wake up from it and you are no longer a victim to it. You don't follow these artists. You don't worship these people. You stop trying to be like them. Because being like them means selling your soul. That's exactly what it means. God is trying to protect you from this life. He's trying to protect you from the vices of the enemy. That's why God has rules. And that's the only reason why he has rules. So you stop stepping in the devil's excrement, which is what we tend to do when we're not guided by God and the Holy Spirit. And that's what we're trying to do here, is show you guys this stuff. And if that seems negative to some people, well, if you don't want to know the truth, you're just going to keep stepping in the devil's excrement. So, all right, you guys, I love all of you. We'll be back on here tomorrow with Contagion. I've already got the, this is the, here, let's show you a little bit of this. And let's play its first part. This will be like a little teaser trailer for those of you that stuck it out to the end of the show today. This is just, what you're looking at here is just the release date of the film Contagion. Watch this. September 3rd, 2011. Well, that date just so happens to have 119 days left in the year. as you're going to see in a second here. There it is, 119 days left in the year, September 3rd. Now, there was a second release date in the US, and that release date was 9/9/11. Another 19 backwards or upside down, right? So, just even in the symbolism of the release dates, you're seeing the number 19 in a film that came out in 2011, which was, what was that? 9 years before the spamdemic. So that's what we'll get into tomorrow. This is a 5-minute montage that you have not seen yet. I'll just wait until tomorrow's show to upload this and talk about it. Love each and every one of you. Thanks for all the new subscribers that are new to the channel. We're live every single day at this exact same time, unless it's a weekend. And usually if I do upload something on a weekend, it'll be like an hour or two after this time. But you can catch us every morning. You don't have to wait for a notification. Just show up and we will be here. Okay. Unless something happens, we get to catch a strike, then we'll go to a backup channel and do the live show there. So subscribe to all the backup channels so that you don't miss the shows. And if you don't see a show post during the week, you'll know we're on the backup channel. Just go over there. Love each and every one of you guys. Have a great day.